Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. Afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it. Good.
Okay,
Right
good.
on, Matt. Welcome to the program, man. How you doing?
I am doing just wonderful. And how are you, Danny?
All is well. All is well,
Great.
and things are rather fine. The program will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? And how did you knew this was the way to go? So that is what you do for a living, Matt.
Well, there's going to be a backstory, but what I do right now is I am a specialist in long-term care planning. I certainly never went to college thinking I would be in the insurance business. However, as we'll get into, I'm sure, in a few minutes, this is what I do. I specialize in long-term healthcare planning. And as you probably know, there is a global crisis with longevity and aging. More and more of us continue to live a very long time, which of course is a good thing. You know, not dying is a good thing, right? But
In general,
if you don't die, the problem is you live. And
yeah.
yeah, and it's that quality of life sometimes as we need help with everyday living activities or even supervision due to memory loss that becomes a primary issue. And in the United States and many other countries, that's the family's responsibility unless you have some kind of advanced planning or qualify for some kind of welfare program. So that's what I do. I do it on a national basis, and I help thousands of people every year.
Uh the guy responsible for my loan, because I got a loan, so because I purchased property here and there. The bank manager responsible for my loan is actually, well, he became a friend of mine later on, but let's say we're buddies right now, and we were at a pub one day. That was I think the first time when I took a bank loan to purchase small apartment, and I asked him like, "What happened if I die?" You know, they were like, "Well, problem is not if you die, because if you die, you're dead. You'd be fine. I mean, there are like two places to go afterwards, so." Where you going is not my business. Problem is if you don't die. And he had this, I really love that amazing sense of humor. It's kind of dark, but not really. He was like, but since you worried so much, don't worry, because I will cremate you myself and you will work as a sand clock till the end of your paydays. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? But that kind of talk does have its charm.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you're gone, and hopefully someone's going to remember you. But it's before we leave,
Yeah.
which could be a very short time or years and years, and that's the issue, because the consequences on family and finances are really tremendous, and a lot of times people don't want to think about it.
Not to
So
mention, we do live, I personally believe, and I studied history, so I guess I'm right, but I personally believe that we live in the most dynamic times ever. I don't think that the previous generations had so much dynamic in their lives, so many options, so many possibilities. Right now, literally, with that shirt, nothing else, I can grab a backpack and go to Paris. Like that, only with my ID. And I'm not gonna because I got stuff to do. But in general, things have never been so dynamic and there've never been so many options. I think that's actually one of the main reasons why we have so many issues. Because, let's say 200 or 300 years ago, you would probably be doing what your father was doing and what your grandfather was doing. That's not exactly the case right now. And it's an amazing time to be alive, but it really causes a lot of problems. And about it, how did you get there? So you were like walking the street one day and you were like, let me help people with this longevity thing. Or did something else?
yeah, no, that's not what happened. So I started my career since I was technically 15 years old
Pretty
in
remarkable.
in radio. And so I was a on-air radio talent working professionally since age 15. And I did that in various markets throughout the United States. But in 1998, my mom, at age 59, went through a series of health events which led her to need long term health care. Around the same time, I was working in Chicago. The owner of the radio station changed formats. We all lost our jobs. I was looking for another radio job, and all my job offers were outside the Chicago area. Well, my son was young at the time. My mom was sick, so we didn't really want to leave Chicago and the Chicago area. So I saw this ad in the newspaper. If you remember when want ads were in the newspaper as opposed to online, the internet had not really yet been really perfected as it is now. And I saw an ad about long-term care insurance and selling long-term care insurance. And I thought, well, I know a little bit about that. I can do that at least temporarily. Um, so I got into it, and I've been doing this temporarily since 1998.
I don't remember who said it. Maybe it was Oscar Wilde, but I'm not really sure. He said one of the most permanent things are the temporary things, because you never know. And in all fairness, yeah, it started as a temporary thing, but if you didn't have this specific set of skill in you, like if this wasn't really for you, because Chicago, I've never been to Chicago, but Chicago is a pretty big place. You could have found any kind of work, but you stuck with that one, although temporary at the start, yet you stuck with it. So, you kind of felt that this was for you.
Yeah, and I would have never dreamt that I would be involved in selling anything, or much less being in the quote unquote insurance business. But it requires a lot of communication skills. Well, I
Yeah.
had that because of the radio. I had a passion because I was going through an event with my mom, so I understood the problem. And, sometimes things fall into your lap and there's a reason for it. And here I am, and, have been extremely lucky and blessed that I am able to help as many people as I can. And at the same time, that earns me a very generous living, which obviously are both good on both sides of that coin.
No argument there. You did kind of cover the third question. How did you know? How did you know that this was the way to go for you? And from what I'm hearing, it's basically the same in the US as well. But we do have this issue in the EU, and people are going to colleges and universities because of that stigma, right? I personally call it stigma, because to have a diploma to fix your life, that hasn't been accurate for a while now. And most of them, not all, but most, are going over there to those colleges and universities just for the diploma. Very often, they don't even know what they're going to study about until they get there. They just get the first thing they're eligible for. Once they graduate, either they don't work anything related to what they have, or they start working, but it's still not for them. That makes a lot of people miserable, because on one hand, you have this self-esteem with, a guy with a diploma. They shouldn't, but they do. And in all fairness, I was like that as well, to a degree, not like that. And, I guess it's fine to be miserable when you're on your own, but once you get to have family and children, you're generating a lot of issues and a lot of problems. And no matter how good of an actor you are, you simply can't hide it. It's not going to be something that you can hide it. So, how did you figure it out for yourself? And to repeat myself a little bit, communication skills, radio, there were a lot of tons of options. Were you influenced by someone, not by events? You already covered the young son and the mother. Those are good events. I mean, if I was in that situation, I'd basically I'll do the first thing that's in front of me. Yet you stuck for it, so you kind of felt that this was for you. How exactly did you get to that conclusion?
Yeah, good question. I had a passion for radio since I was extremely young. So, unlike a lot of people who are now 17, 18 years old going to college, who, society expects. So now you start making it a decision, a lifelong decision by studying something in college and then maybe going into postgraduate work and then off you go. You might discover along the way that, you know what, I really don't like the law. I don't like medicine, or I don't like accounting, or whatever it is. In my case, that wasn't the issue. It was completely circumstantial. And sometimes, lightning strikes. And unfortunately and fortunately, lightning struck at the exact same time. Lose a job, don't want to relocate. And then while I was looking for a job in my field, in this case, radio, something fell into your lap that all of a sudden you discover that A, you're good at, B, you think is important, and C, rewards you more than just monetary. There are a lot of jobs that pay a lot of money, and a lot of
Yeah.
them you're going to work your what off. Okay, you might not be happy. Whatever it is. I mean, for instance, there's a lot of people who really work for a living. People in the construction industry, are building roads and buildings, and laborers of all sorts. They work really hard. Some of them probably don't make as much money as they should. Some of them are happy, and obviously others are not. But in this case, I found something that was rewarding on multiple levels. And would I have done as well as I have had I not had that personal experience? Good question. Don't have an answer for that. And I do think sometimes God puts you in a position that it's up to you to take advantage of it or not. But it's there for the taking. It can be scary. It was scary to jump out of my comfort level. I had never sold anything. I knew nothing about insurance other than being a consumer. You got your auto insurance and stuff like that. But I stuck with it. And once I understood it and saw the power and importance of the product and how it just benefits not just the policy holder, but the families as well, multiple generations of families, children, grandchildren, that typically become informal, unpaid caregivers because there's no plan. All of a sudden now you have a career that is meaningful. And sometimes that's hard to find. I've been blessed that that's what I have found. And lucky enough that at least, because of my radio background, I do programs like yours. It kind of keeps me in front of a microphone. I have fun. I'm able to
It is fun.
express, and I make this industry fun. I mean, you're talking about a topic that's pretty serious. And but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And I treat this with clients in the same way, and I think they react much better. If you make it totally gloom and doom, people build a wall. They won't want to listen. So I try to
People
have
learn
fun.
when you make it a little bit more loose. Like,
Yes.
Mississippi, right? I when I was a kid, we used to read Tom Sawyer.
Right.
Right now I don't know how to spell Mississippi, but if I have to, I will say it's M-I, crooked letter, I, crooked letter, I, humpback, I. Because I know this by heart, but if you give me a a paper and a pen. I'm not sure I'd be able to do it at the moment, but and I learned that when I was a kid, right?
Right, right.
And it stays with you. And same goes for everything.
Yeah, you know, if you when you were in school, the teachers that were the most effective were the ones that were engaging, that
Yeah.
made class interesting as opposed to reading their notes in front of the lectern and
With the
during
glasses
the,
and the
you know,
nose over here.
yeah, I mean, you know, and I hate it. I didn't mind school. I kind of liked school. But certainly we had teachers that were absolutely awful. They may be brilliant individuals, not saying that they don't know their topic, but being able to communicate their knowledge to someone else, they just didn't have. And then you got
Yeah.
other teachers and professors, depending on what level you're talking about, that made it interesting, that made it memorable. So when you left that class, you got something out of it. And I don't care what the topic is. Every class on every topic has some kind of message that all of a sudden, at some point in your life, is going to dawn on you. Oh, I know this because I remember, you know, Mrs. Smith saying blah, 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 blah. And all along, you didn't care about, you know, rectangles. And all of a sudden, you're trying to remodel your house and knowing about rectangles and this or that. You may not know all the details, but at least you know the concept. And that's part of education. And certainly in the United States, I think we've lost our way, and it's probably the same way in many parts of the world where you know we concentrate maybe too much in classrooms on feelings
Yeah.
and on topics that aren't going to help you down the road. And we forget about reading, writing, and history and math and science and those types of things that really will be useful. And, you know, when you look at the globe, the countries in Asia, for example, that really concentrate math and science,
Which
uh,
parts of
they're,
Asia?
what's that?
Which parts of Asia?
Well, you're talking about China and Korea and where
Parts
in
of South
education.
Korea, central Japan around the Tokyo and Matsushima area, and Beijing and a few other provinces. But in all fairness, in Asia, the educational level is rather low, India included. And I understand that because now keep in mind that those are densely populated areas. I
Right,
don't know
right,
if
right,
you've
right.
ever seen the demographic map of China. If you Google it real quick, about 55% of the entire nation is absolutely you cannot live there. The only people that are there are scientists and military personnel. So those are very dense areas, and that's why they don't really push a lot of education over there because there are a lot of people and very bad weather conditions. Like I'm from Southeastern Europe. I love it here. I go to ski in the winter and a whole summer is sea season. It's perfect. It's not like that over there, not at all. So keep
Well,
in mind
I
it's
think
like a policy.
it's who has access to education, and that's a
Yeah,
different. Yeah.
they do have access, but it's
It,
very basic. So
so
definitely.
the elite, let's put it this way, the elite in those areas, and that's why you see a lot of scientists and all that in those countries. They're getting that type of education. So you are right. It's not universal for the
Yeah.
entire population.
Israel
Uh,
is a very good example because there are not a lot of people in Israel. I don't have the number in front of me. They are around between 15 and 22 million people. I'm not
okay.
sure how, around that number. They like the majority of them are like well educated because the system over there is designed exactly like that and for that.
Absolutely, that's a great
So,
example.
yeah, but
And
Israel is a
and
very isolated case.
yeah,
Very.
yeah, and the majority of that population has access to high quality of education, which is certainly not the case in a lot of countries, including the United States, where the levels of of education may be, different in the inner city area, for example, as opposed to a suburban area
Yeah.
or a rural area. And there's probably political and revenue reasons for all that we don't need to get into.
Yeah.
But when you do have the ability to have a higher level of education, while that might not solve the problem of what you're going to do for a living, it will give you a well-rounded knowledge base that wherever you do end up
How to
going,
do it for a living, mostly.
exactly. And that's why I always thought it's sometimes silly to expect a 17-year-old to determine what their career is and then start taking classes for a major or post grad, is not everyone is ready to make those kind of decisions. But some people are. I was. I thought radio and TV was my thing. It was for a long time, and then all of a sudden, it was not.
Yeah.
But I do think that my general background in communication skills helps me do what I do now on a much higher level.
Yeah,
And
because it was a stepping stone.
yeah,
You,
absolutely.
you knew that radio was for you, so you did it. And afterwards, you just took everything from there as an experience. But nothing can take from you experience and stuff like that. It's always gonna stay with you. And that way he is. It was basically a stepping stone.
And I do everything virtual. And this was well before COVID. I started doing everything virtual, gosh, 2014. And and that gave me the ability to have a wider net because I am licensed in every state and the District of Columbia. Whereas if I was just trying to serve a small community, I would have a very small, pond to fish in, so to speak. So I am national in scope. And when you do things virtual, it reduces the level of tension
Yeah.
between the consumer who's trying to learn options and the individual who is explaining it. Okay. Whereas, you come into an office and everyone's dressed up and it's really formal and it's scary. It starts off being scary, and the way I do it allows someone to sit in their living room or in their kitchen, put up their laptop, they see my computer screen, and we just have a conversation. Very relaxed. It opens the ability to interact and have fun, make it less stressful, less scary. And when you're in that atmosphere, you learn more. Both from my standpoint, I learn more about my potential client, and the consumer learns more about a topic that they were concerned about. So no matter what happens at the end, whether they decide to buy long-term care insurance or not, they will come away hopefully better educated, have a better knowledge base of what the issue is, and find something positive out of that time in speaking with me. And that's the goal because if they have that kind of attitude, they're going to be more likely, more apt to make a decision. Obviously, I hope they make a decision if it's appropriate for them to move forward. If not, at least they have checked that off their to-do list. In either case, it's a good thing.
It's always a good thing when it's a win-win situation. And I got a bit of a fourth question. You did cover that, but if you can synthesize it, if you have one advice, I'm sure you have many, but if you have one advice for the audience is mostly made of folks who are just in that sector. Is this job for me? Is this education field for me? Am I in the right team? Am I not? And if you can give them one advice, what will it be?
I think it's really important to do something that you enjoy. And that seems simple enough. But we've all talked to individuals that may be very good at what they do, but you can tell they're not happy. They
Oh,
don't like going into work every day. All they're concerned about is how long before I get to retire.
I have, well, okay, well, that was pretty good because the people that I consulted with, well, those are from the IT sector. And they're like, how long do I have till the end of the month so that I can see my salary? I don't even think they know what the word retire means. Okay, so the time
Yeah.
frame is the end of the month. Nobody said anything about retirement. If those guys, and they earn pretty good money, right? Like pretty good money. None of them are happy.
Right. Yeah. And money by itself does not lead to happiness. Now, it can make being happy much better. Don't get me wrong. Money
Yeah.
is not a bad thing. But money by itself does not equal happiness. So I wake up every day enjoying walking downstairs to my office in my house. I don't have to go anywhere else. I
Same here.
don't have to I don't have to get dressed. No one sees me other than when I do a podcast and there's video or something like. No one sees me. Occasionally I do, public speaking, but generally speaking, in my normal everyday thing, I don't have to worry about that. But I do wake up enjoying what the day is going to bring. It is not a dread. And I have talked to construction workers who love what they do. They love it. It's hard work, but they love it. And then there's other people who may be really good at construction, but they hate it. And I think that's the key is to try to discover what it is that you enjoy. I talked to someone who's in their second career, and they were an engineer. They were very good, but the guy hated it. The guy hated it, and then he ended up changing careers in midlife. And he said he was absolutely having a ball. And I go, well, what made you do it? And he goes, well, I try to analyze what it is that I enjoyed. And in his case, he really likes sports. Okay. So he was able to take his engineering background and find a job working for, it started off at a minor league baseball team in the rural United States who needed help with groundskeeping and all that. So his engineering background started to start playing, and
Very
all of a
interesting.
sudden he started making recommendations and things, and they were doing things with the stadium, and that led from one thing to another to now all of a sudden he's working for a major league baseball team,
Nice.
making a lot of money and having a ball because he took his passion, which was sports, combined it with his knowledge and found a way to merge it. And I think a lot of people have that ability, but going through that process sometimes can be scary. In my case, it
Sometimes
was
you gotta reject the comfort zone, and it's not always easy.
right. And
With all this
sometimes
comfort
people,
zone and all those things that we have, I'm sure you have heard that analogy with the frog in the boiling water.
yep, yep.
Yeah, that's it.
In my case, I was forced to do something because of circumstances, and I got lucky. Would I have taken that leap otherwise? Probably not, but I was enjoying radio, so I didn't have the motivation to do that until I lost that. So now all of a sudden I had the motivation to look for something else. For someone that's currently working in a job that they are depressed at, it can be scary to, quit that for this unknown. But if you can find a way to combine your knowledge base and skills with something that you enjoy, I think the end result is a happy life.
Not to
And if you,
mention, if you're depressed at work, it's not like you can get more depressed. All right, you're already there. What
right,
are you
right.
gonna lose?
So, I think that's really the thing. You got to look in the mirror and figure out what it is that you enjoy. And then how can I take the skills that you have? And you got to be honest, okay, with yourself. But what skills do I have? How can that be combined with what I enjoy? Okay. If you love to play golf and you want to be in pro golf and you are terrible at playing golf, okay, that's probably not realistic. But the golf industry is fairly large. There may be something in that golf area that your skills would match. And sometimes it's just thinking out of the box. Okay, maybe you're selling golf clubs to pro golfers. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's always
but
something.
There's always something. And the choices are yours to make. The worst thing anyone will ever tell you is no.
Yeah.
And while we don't like to hear no, it's not like a bullet. It's not going
You
to
can just
kill
move
you.
on. That's
You
why I
just
don't
move on.
understand people that are afraid of dating. You know, those guys that are afraid to ask a woman out because of the no.
Yeah.
She's not like, it's not like there has been only one woman in the history of mankind that you should be careful, and that's Medusa. But Perseus took care of that for us a long time ago.
Right.
Okay, you just go over there, look her in the eye, and ask. Not Medusa, but in general.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because
And
the
if
worst thing that's
you're
going to happen
careful-
is they're going to say no,
Yeah,
and
sure will.
and then you say next. You just consider yourself lucky
There was
and move
this
on.
nice Christian lady I was dating. I'm an Orthodox Christian. We don't really go to church because we believe the church is the body. And we've been dating, and she's like, I want you to come to church with me. All right. Why? Because normally we don't do that. Well, because I bought this new beautiful dress, I want everybody to see it. I'm like, that's not a pub. That's not a club, man. You can just parade over there. So there are always signals and flags you just have to be aware of it. And it's the same for the job. You love something, you start in that sector, and you move from there.
Absolutely.
And those are indeed remarkably wise words, Matt. You mentioned you had podcasts and channels and everything. Please give me the links so that I can put them in the description below, because I want people to check them up when they see the episode.
Absolutely.
And it was an absolute joy and honor to talk to you, man. I really appreciate it, and I wish you a nice day.
Likewise, thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for being here. Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.